Go down to Metri now. Luke Johnson covers the black and gold for The Advocate. He joins us on the phone as he does each and every Thursday. Luke, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, although I am also dealing with my own ear, nose, throat problems here.
I think
So
it's like
I
allergies.
feel like it's just the season. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been brutal. Like, I don't feel bad. I just, my nose, I'm blowing my nose every 2 seconds. It just is what it is, I guess, this time of year. All right, Saints and Bengals coming up. We'll talk about that shortly, but we'll go back to the Seahawks game first briefly. I don't think he can depend on it 17 games a year, but every once in a while, Taysom might make some plays, and he certainly did on Sunday. How much can they lean on that moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, he was awesome. I just don't know if that's really something they can just count on being there every game, no matter when they need it. You know, look, it was really cool seeing them run that 10, 15 times Sunday. Everybody in the entire building knows what's coming on every play but one. You know, the touchdown pass to Troutman, that was a surprise. But everybody knows what's coming. It doesn't matter, and he goes 60 yards for a touchdown anyways. It's really cool to see that happen. I just don't think it's something that you can really just reliably depend on every week. Seattle came in with the worst defense in the NFL. You know, the Saints identified something they could take advantage of, and they did. But, you know, I think more broadly speaking, the offense in general these last couple of weeks has really kind of started to find an identity, and that identity is it looks a lot like it did last year when they started 5-2. They're really just leaning on their ground game. They're leaning on their offensive line and telling their quarterback to play efficient, mistake-free football. And I think it's worked. So I would expect to see a lot more of that, and I really expect to see it this weekend against Cincinnati. But I just don't know if it's going to be the Taysom show every week.
Yeah, probably not. And I heard Dennis Allen use the word efficient like 400 times when talking about Andy's play, but I think it's worth the question. I mean, how do you assess his play now that he's kind of gotten into a rhythm?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's done a really nice job, you know, and I think it's not just, throwing the ball and the decision making. I think he's done a really nice job, like managing pressure in the pocket. There was one play in particular that I kind of highlighted in my film review, but the Seattle linebacker came completely wide open and free on a blitz, unblocked, and the first 3 weeks of the season that was a 9-yard loss and the end of a drive. Instead, Andy just kind of like calmly moved up and to his left. The blitzer went like racing past him, and he found Juwan Johnson for a 13-yard gain, and 4 plays later they're in the end zone. Like, those are the types of plays that we're missing. I think those are the types of plays that Jameis kind of struggled with his health. You know, he wasn't as mobile as he normally is. I think Andy's just done a really nice job stepping in and doing what the Saints have done really well for the last several years, and that's taking what the defense gives them and not trying to make too much out of plays that just aren't there. I think the floor is very high for Andy Dalton. I just don't think the ceiling is super high, which is why I think whenever Jameis does get healthy, I think he gets an opportunity to go back in the lineup. But the thing is, now the Saints know that they can plug Andy Dalton in there and be like a capable offense. So I think the stakes are high for whenever Jameis does return. I think whenever he does return healthy, he is going to be back in the lineup. I think the stakes are high for him to come in and operate within the offense and not try to do too much because I think they've shown they can be a pretty good offense that way.
Luke, I never thought I'd see the day where Tennessee fans would be patting me on the head saying, we've been here before, guys. You guys are always next year. But to put more salt on that one, I had to see our greatest defensive player in LSU history rocking that ugly Tennessee hoodie. What was that like, man? Did that burn your retina seeing the Badger in those ugly Tennessee colors?
Oh man, that hurt even more than seeing him in the Florida State colors from the opening week. I haven't seen Tyron in the locker room since then, but I might just like quietly beg him not to make any more bets this year. I think LSU is going to be very good in the next couple of years. It's just like, let's just put the bets off this year, okay? Please
it's
don't
a
bet
rebuild,
with
Tyron. Hold on.
Don't bet with Mark Ingram. Please don't bet with any of the Florida guys this week. Definitely don't bet with the A&M guys. I don't want like that cult of fans getting a hold of that photo, So, let's just chill a little bit on the bets, Tyron. Although,
right.
look, his credit, that was a bold move, and I think everybody would have loved seeing like Alvin Kamara wearing LSU colors, right?
That would have gone over very well.
Let's nip that in the bud for the rest of the year.
All right, Bengals coming to town on Sunday. Been a talking point around here, just what kind of orange and black presence. Moscona in the afternoon thinks, he said this multiple times, that the Bengals fans can neutralize the Saints' home field advantage. I think there's going to be like 5,000 Bengals fans in there max, and those are the ones that fly from Ohio. There just aren't enough people like me that don't really care about the Saints, love Joe Burrow, and adopted the Bengals, and then they're going to show up in the Dome and pay $400 for 2 tickets to watch this game. Do you expect a big Cincinnati contingent?
No, I do expect a big Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase contingent, right? Like, I think there's going to be a lot of people in the stands in LSU jerseys. And I think, like, it's going to be that, like, kind of weird atmosphere where there's actually cheers for the offenses on both sides, But, like, I'm not expecting to see, like, 20,000 people in black and orange in the stadium. I just think that's kind of ridiculous. I think there's still going to be a home field advantage. But look, I mean, obviously, like, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are like heroes down here for good reason. That 19 season was unbelievable, and I think it's made whatever's happened in these last couple of years with LSU football bearable, because they're like, yeah, well, we still got 19. I mean, there are going to be people there cheering for Joe Burrow, and that's okay. I don't think it's going to be like this deafening roar for Bengals fans where they're killing the home field advantage. I just think that people are going to be like, yeah, go Saints, but also go Joe Burrow and go Jamar Chase. And they're going to be celebrating a 50-yard touchdown pass if they connect on one.
Chatting with Luke Johnson of The Advocate covering the Saints. The Bengals spent a bunch of money on the offensive line, but I haven't seen that it's that much better. Would you imagine the Saints could take advantage of that with a pass rush and slowing down a progressing Bengals running game?
Yeah, I do. I think the Saints pass rush has fared pretty well these last couple of weeks. Yeah, I thought the concern after 2 weeks was overblown. I think to borrow from Dennis Green, like, they are who we thought they were. I think that's probably going to be going to create some problems for Burrow and the Bengals offense this week, especially considering last week, they're kind of getting all these people chirping at him because, this Bengals offense has been a very explosive offense with Joe operating it these last couple of weeks or these last couple of years. And, last week, I think they just dinked and dunked their way down the field against the Ravens. And people are starting to question, that sort of philosophy. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them try to take some shots downfield, which will theoretically leave Joe open to some shots from the Saints defensive line. I would expect them to kind of get after him again this week. They just got to be careful because, I think Burrow is probably a little bit underrated as far as pre-snap reads and catching guys blitzing. It'll just be completely dependent on that front four, I think, to get it done.
The Bengals rushing attack this season, they're third to last in the NFL in yards per carry with only 2 touchdowns this season. Are you pretty safe to say you trust this Saints defense to be able to shut that down this Sunday?
Yeah. I think they'll do what they do every week, and that's try to make the opposing offense one-dimensional. They just got to avoid those big plays that have been kind of cropping up this year. Seattle, I think, got the vast majority of their running game, it was accounted for by 2 plays. They had more than 100 yards rushing on 2 big explosives, and I think the Saints got to really tighten up on that. I think Seattle had 6 plays of 30 more yards last week, and 2 of them coming on the ground. If they can keep that contained, I think I like their chances against Cincy's passing attack, and keeping them one-dimensional, keeping them in those third and long situations where they can let their pass rush go. They can't let those guys get going against them, and I think that's the priority every week.
Anything further on Michael Thomas, Jameis Winston?
Nothing further on Michael Thomas. Yeah, I think Adam Schefter reported last week that they kind of expected him to play, but I would almost be a little surprised if he did. And Jameis has been back at practice, but I think, if I were guessing here, and this is purely speculation on my part, not based on any report or talking to anybody about it, but I'd be guessing they're trying to just get him back into the flow of things, let him practice, be around his teammates, get his timing back. But it would be a surprise to me if they brought him back this week and then have him turn right back around on a short week and start next week as well. So I would probably guess 1 more week of Andy Dalton at least. And probably without Michael Thomas.
How about Jarvis?
Jarvis is another one where, I think we kind of expected him to play last week after Dennis Allen said he was feeling good about it, and we haven't seen him in practice. So he's another one that I'm kind of doubtful on. They're going to have a pretty rough-looking receiver room, I think, this week. The big question for me is really Chris Olave. Obviously left the game with a concussion last week. He's in return. He's in the protocol. He has to clear those hoops first to get back on the field. And I mean, you're looking at potentially the prospect of maybe being without your top 3 receivers and without Deontay Hardy as well. So 4 out of your top 6. That's pretty tough. They're going to have to, maybe they will actually have to lean on Taysom really hard this week.
Enjoy the ball game on Sunday, Luke. Thanks for your time. We'll do it next week.
Thanks so much for watching Hunt Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor. Hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. We'll see you next time.